All right, hey, so we do have an awards banquet on the table, right? It's March 27th at 11 a.m. at Greyhawk. We have a buffet lunch. All the awards are there. We are going to do things a little bit different this year. We've reorganized a little bit. The feedback that we got last year and even the year before that was it's too long. So we're going to guarantee you that we're out of there at what time?
No later than 1.
No later than 1. So 2 hours.
That's with lunch, everything.
Oh, that's good.
Yep. So in years past, it's ran a little bit long, and people were starting to yawn a little bit. So we're going to keep it short and brief. So please take out your electronic devices now and put April 27th at 11 a.m.
March.
That's what I said.
Now, there's one little change on this.
327.
It is a Wednesday. So we had to move it back. Normally we have it the third week just like we do with this right here. But everybody's usually out on spring break. So we moved it back. Unfortunately, the venue was not available on that Tuesday. So it's on a Wednesday. So just a heads up.
Did you guys all get that? So we're normally Tuesday, right? Every third Tuesday. So it's on a Wednesday, March 27th at 11 a.m. All right, hey, we got a couple of new agents. Is Bruce Swift here? Don't see Bruce. What about Angela Ball? Kuzmeyer? No. They're out selling houses. Nora, I saw Nora. This is your first meeting, right?
My first meeting.
Stand up and introduce yourself. Nora, I didn't know that. I surprise these agents a lot. So Nora, go ahead and tell them about yourself and what you're about.
I'm brand new to the industry, so I'm really excited. I actually own a senior home care company, and I'm trying to transition with some of my clients and helping them in real estate, so it's really excited. Cool.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank
And
you.
Laura, you're mentoring a little bit, right?
Yes.
Yep. So you guys did an open house this weekend,
Yeah.
right? Any success?
Yeah, it was kind of slow.
By slow?
It was a little slow, yeah.
She was practicing taking live video.
All right, good. Yeah, and post on social media. Good. All right. Well, welcome, Nora. All right. So Mark Deacon, is Mark here? Didn't see Mark. Michelle Flagstaff. No, she wouldn't be here. Michelle wouldn't be here. And then Daniel Carter, is that Flagstaff also? Or is that
No,
your-
Dan Carter, I don't see him here.
Oh, Stacy's here too.
Stacy Brashear.
Stacy.
Stacy.
In the
Thank
very
you for
back.
catching that. All right, Stacy, are you ready? You want to stand up and say hello?
Stacy Brashear. I just relocated here about 2 years ago. My background is technology marketing and software sales, so I'm trying to transition into real estate full time. And I've got Jennifer here.
Yeah, Jennifer. Yeah. Well done. Thank you for coming. Because you're within 3 days of joining, right?
Yes.
You just So you were fresh off the press. Welcome. All right.
Patrick, you want to introduce your new team member?
Oh, thanks, Patrick.
Someone who's joining my sales team is Sherry Stewart. Sherry, go ahead. She's going to be at my new home community at Mulberry Park.
35 years in the business, became commercial. I did reviews for Lennar for a long time. I worked with Susan Highlands, training new home hires. And I've been really wonderful. And I walked in just to view his property, and that was it.
Now, Patrick, you got two subdivisions now, right?
Right.
I know On Q,
Mulberry Park.
Mulberry Park, and where's Mulberry Park?
Mulberry Park is Arcadia corridor, so it's looks like a townhouse, a single family, considered a single family, starting in the mid fours. I have 3% down, no mortgage insurance programs for any buyers. So anybody who wants to be close to Arcadia, great community, 35 homes, it's gonna sell like crazy.
All right, and how do you spell Sherry?
Shari.
I knew it'd be different. That's the French way, right?
Old enough to know Sherry Lewis, the puppeteer. Right.
All right, Paul Baker's got a quick announcement with the Boys and Girls Club coming up. Paul, I am in.
Oh, Boys and Girls Club or?
Is it?
No, we were going to talk about Hutch Fund.
Oh, look at that. I'm all
Boys and
jacked
Girls
up.
Clubs later
You're
on
on
in the
that
year.
too.
Yeah, I know. All right, Hutch Fund, real quick.
Okay, our spring fundraiser is going to be a great comedy night at High Street at the House of Comedy this Thursday. I know the office meeting didn't align real well, but it's really inexpensive. It's just $20 for a ticket. You need to just buy one food or drink item when you get there. But it's nationally known comics this Thursday night at 7:30. Just $20 if you'd like to support Hush Fund. This is a great way to go out. I think we've sold about 150 tickets already, so a lot of your friends and colleagues are out. Excuse me, I have a little cold. But see me after, give you a business card if you'd like to purchase it.
Yeah, and we're going to do the +1 again. So anybody that, yeah, thanks, Paul. So anybody that does it today by 5,
Yep.
so keep a list today by 5, we'll buy your +1. So you get 2 tickets for the price of 1. Remax will pick up your +1.
Nice.
Thanks,
Right?
guys.
Yeah. So
Thanks,
hopefully you go to, and there's 2 comedy clubs now in, is it the one?
Yeah.
Yeah. Which one is it?
Rick Bronson's House of Comedy on the north side.
On High
Center
Street.
of
On High Street. All right, so it's the original one.
Yeah.
The original one. All right,
What's the
good.
date?
Office update. So we are still moving forward with the office next door, but keep in mind, guys, let's not get stressed out about it. Like everybody's wondering what space they're going to end up in. We got a lot of room. We're reconfiguring it, and we have 8 months to do the move. We close on it on the end of March, but we don't have to end our lease. Our lease ends at the end of December, so we got a lot of time. I see Greg working on all the schematics.
I'm up to 8 different floor plans.
Yeah, so but everybody will fit in the building. There will be no worries there. This Friday's birthday Friday, correct? Yep. What do we have at Chick-fil-A?
Chick-fil-A.
Chick-fil-A. This Friday's birthday Friday, and that is it for me.
Thank you very much.
I'm gonna go put on some
Go
gloves.
rounds, everyone. Go rounds. All right. The next guest speaker is really tough to announce. Sandy Carpenter. How do you spell it? It's C-A-R.
It wasn't the puppeteer, wasn't her name Shari, not Sherry, it was Shari, right? Shari. Shari.
I'll answer it.
Don't you remember that? What was the one, I used to watch that, and what was the one, who had the looking glass, and through the looking glass, and she used to mention all the movies. Romper Room.
I know that one.
They never said Sandy. They never said Sandy, ever.
What was their name?
Never said Sandy. Okay, so this is for you, Don Matheson. Are you watching, Don? This is for you. Okay, next time you're going to do this. Don Matheson asked me to remind everybody every other Friday. We'll send you out a notice. It's a luxury home tour right here at the Greyhawk Community Center. There's some great speakers, and Don wanted me to encourage people to come. Even though you may not be a luxury home person or not have a home on tour, you get there for 40 minutes. It's some great speakers, and I've been attending the last couple of weeks, and it really is quite enlightening. So.
Now wait, Sandy, is that the same thing as the Pinnacle Peak Tour?
Same thing, but they changed it now.
There is no more Pinnacle Peak RMS.
Yeah.
We split off from SAR, so it's an independent tour.
Yeah.
But it's the same day.
It's the same thing.
time.
They split off because you can make your own rules or something. I don't know the details.
So wait, are you competing now? Is
No, there is not one with SAR.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, so it's
One's
the same
gone.
time first.
Okay, Don, you happy now? I did it. All right. I just got to get some housekeeping business out of the way. Everybody remembers this?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead, tell me what this is. Go ahead, tell me. Say it. Say it, everybody. Come on, tell me.
You have to review it in 10 days.
Say it louder.
You have to review all the paper. The broker must review
Which means you guys have to turn in your paperwork. Let me tell you why I did this, okay? Try to be funny. For some reason, since January, paperwork has been unbelievably late. And I'm not picking on any one of you, but as a company, and those out there in TV land, that goes for you too. It's just been late. I mean, I'm getting contracts in January that were done in December. I'm getting contracts early February that were done in October. It's never been like that to that bad of an extent. So it's not a good reflection on us, certainly not on me when we get some sort of review and audit by, please, 5 days, please do that. So I had some promises made. Tyler Johnstone is not here, but he was the first one to call in, and there's $25 for him. The second person to call in to win, Annie Cole.
Oh.
So this is for you, Annie.
Annie cheated though.
No, because it was about weight paperwork, so I knew it was about me. I didn't have to look it up.
And the third person to call in was Peggy Young. So congratulations. So, but I did get a lot of feedback, so but please, ARS 32-2151-01G. Paperwork is required within 10 days, so, okay.
10 or 5. You're confusing.
We asked for 5. The reality is the department requires it in 10. We just need time to review it, so.
We have 10 days to review the paperwork, so that gives us a few days to do that. That's the reason we have 5 days.
So please, please, please. All right, just some housekeeping things, and I'll get into some other things. This really won't affect too much of many of us. There are new commercial purchase contracts on AAR in zip forms. Really doesn't affect us too much, but they've tried to streamline a little bit more like our purchase contracts. Most of us don't do commercial, but FYI, there's a new one. There's a new form now in zip forms, and it's called a notice form. What is a notice form? It's just that. It's a notice. So if you read it, it just says this is a notification, because a lot of our contract says if you disapprove, you have to give notification. If you don't do something, you have to notify. There's never really been a form for notifying. So now there's an official form for notification, and it's just a notification. But here's the trick. Don't get a counteroffer, an addendum, an attachment, and a notice form. They're all different. All different. So for example, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, on the Binzer, and we need more lines to write items, don't do an addendum, because it's not an addendum. Just take a blank piece of paper and write attachment, and then on the Binzer write see attachment number 1, and then you have attachment number 1. So here's the question I get asked a lot. Why don't we get a lot of lines on the Binzer to put our stuff in, and why is it, and you'll hear this later, on the contract you got a whole page of additional terms and conditions, and most of us don't want you to write in a lot of additional terms and conditions, right? So why do they give so many lines? Anybody know why? I know you know.
Fill a page.
To fill a page. It was just for formatting purposes. It just, for no other reason. So, and I'll talk more about that. But anyway, there's a notification form. So now if you're going to notify somebody because you're canceling based on something, or you're going to notify, there's a form. All right, there's some rumors out there about zip forms going away. Zip forms may or may not go away, but it's not going to happen anytime before 2019 is over. But you will see another program, another online forms program out there. I think it's called InstaForms. Instanet. They will be running simultaneously with each other. You can use one or you can use the other. But zip forms is not going away anytime soon. Okay, so the AAR has been very unhappy with zip forms, and they're negotiating, they're trying to do a new contract, they're not sure. So if they don't renew with zip forms, Instanet will be just kind of taking over, but you're gonna have a whole year's process. So you might wanna just play around with it, but be aware of that. Code of Ethics. SOP, Standard of Practice 1-7, has just been added in 2019 in January. And I'll talk about it a little bit later on. I'll send you out an email later today. Here's what it basically says. If I make an offer to you and you don't respond, and I don't know for sure that you've presented the offer to the seller, right? We all have that problem, right? All of us. If the buyer's agent requests in writing to the listing agent proof that it was submitted, the listing agent must provide in writing back that the offer was presented and either rejected or not responded to. They must respond back. The loophole, in my opinion, is this. If I request to you, Tom, in writing, if you're going to lie to me that says, well, the seller didn't want to sign the last page and reject it, and he looked at it and accepted another offer, I still don't have any proof that you presented the offer, right? And then, of course, 2 months later, I look back at MLS and it was you're the other agent on the deal that you did both ends. So if I request to you in writing that I want you to tell me in writing back that you presented the offer, you have to do that. but I don't know if you're really telling the truth or not.
Right.
But at least you have something in writing if you ever wanted to pursue it. So that's a new standard of practice. I'll send this out later on. You can see the actual verbiage on that. All right, any questions on that?
So Sandy, it could be a text. Just say, hey, did you present my offer to the seller? And then they have to text you back and say yes.
Yeah, in writing. It doesn't
Okay,
say
right.
the form of writing, but in writing. Correct.
It doesn't say what type.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
It could be on a notification.
What's that?
It could be on that notice.
Yeah, but just have to give written notice. It could be that, sure.
Yeah, but as a standard of care, I mean, guys, you got to be really careful when you represent the seller. Do not make decisions for them, because I have been asked a couple of questions. You know, well, we're really leaning towards, is Otley here? Otley had 3 offers on his DC Ranch listing, and he had a couple of questions around it because he had already kind of made a commitment to the second one verbally that, hey, we're in a really good position. Well, the third one came in last moment, right? And I said, as you're signing that third one, make sure that the seller rejects and saw the other 2. Because you don't want the seller to come back to you and say, hey, the second one was cash, even though the third one was financed, right? Anyway, you get the picture, right? You could be liable for a lot of money, especially if that third one falls out and they never looked at the second. I mean, anyways, just
do that. Yes, yes.
trust me.
I think the third one ended up winning, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was an odd deal, and he felt bad in the second one. I said, dude, it doesn't matter what you feel. What matters?
The seller.
Yes. You don't represent it doesn't matter what you feel. Get your feeling out of it. It's the seller's feeling.
And on the last page of the contract, there's a line for rejection, right? Just exit and have your seller sign it, and you're covered. I mean, we should be using the forms anyway. We have some terrific forms. And again, I'll get into this a little bit more, but let's use our forms. Yeah, Brian.
Sandy, we talked about it about a month ago, and can you just re-clarify for me? I've always been because I had a listing that came on multiple offers, well, 2 offers. My thinking has always been, I want to do a multiple counter to everybody, just because there's a lot of times, including this one, where the lowest offer ended up being the highest offer. You just never know.
Right.
But you said, I just don't agree with.
Well, there's different strategies. There's just different strategies. It's not a right or a wrong. It's done. But thank you.
Did you tell them about the band?
The band. So here's the thing on multiple offers, and I will get into this a little bit more too. But with multiple offers, you have a choice, right? Or the seller has a choice. Your job, our job, is just to tell the seller what your choices are. If one of them is good enough to accept, you can just accept one, reject the other. If you want to make a multiple counter offer on both, then you use the multiple counter offer form. Because the problem is, if you make a counter offer to buyer A and a counter offer to buyer B, and both buyer A and buyer B accept your counteroffer, who'd you sell the house to? Right? So, on a multiple counteroffer form, you make your counteroffer, and they don't have to be the same, because offer A was different from offer B. So you can make your counteroffer to A specific to that offer, make your counteroffer B to specific to that offer, but do it on a multiple counteroffer. So now, if both buyers accept your counteroffer, the seller has to choose one, and the one that they sign the second time on the final acceptance is the one they've accepted, right? So there's another strategy, and this is what I personally like. If I have 2 offers and one of them is good enough to take, I'd leave that alone, and I would go back to the offer that's not as good and see if I can get that offer to beat the better offer. And if they do, then I would suggest to the seller take that offer. And if they don't, then just take the one that was good enough to take originally. That's just my strategy. But that's not my decision to make. Like Del said, those are just options that we give our sellers.
Yeah, and a lot of agents forget that your multiple offer notification to buyer A and buyer B can be completely different.
Right, yeah.
You can go to the cash one at 1++ price, right? And the financed one at something else with maybe just close at escrow, right? They don't have to be identical. So just keep that in mind.
Is that what you asked?
I forgot, you know what, when I do a highest and best by a certain time, that's the part that I think you disagreed with. I counter both that way, and oddly enough, the low one came in with an escalating clause. I haven't seen one of those in years, but which is...
Well, this is my personal problem. This is me. I just don't like the words highest and best. I just don't, because it doesn't say anything. And I go to these broker meetings a lot, and I say the same thing every time. First of all, the banks brought in, back in 05, 07, 08, 9, 10, all the banks, they brought in those words, highest and best. We've never used those words ever before, right? Ever. it doesn't mean anything. Because if you counter me, think about this, just think about this literally. If you counter me and it says highest and best, and my buyer comes back and gives us the highest and best, then you have to accept it because I gave you what you asked for. This is my highest and best. I know that's not what it means, but that's what it says. My buyer gave you their highest and best. Why aren't you accepting it? I gave you what you wanted. I just don't buy into that. The banks brought that language into our industry, and I hate it. It doesn't mean anything. It just doesn't mean anything to me.
I like your second thing that you call the other before you do anything, because sometimes if you do a multiple, one of them walks.
Possibly.
I'm not willing.
Possibly.
They both may walk.
Or they both can walk, and you've got nothing. But
Possible.
if you make the call,
Sure.
at least you've still got
Gotta
both of
put a
them.
leash on one of
Yeah.
them.
Exactly.
It's very
I think
possible.
that it's
There's no
very-
right strategy, right? Because we're different, our
Well,
personalities,
on the wall.
our styles, the sellers. You could lose them all. Who knows? A bunch of things can happen. But there's just different strategies. That's all my point. Yeah, Frank.
Sandy, on the buyer side, I think one thing that's kind of interesting is that we were in a multiple offer on the buyer side, and I call it the listing agent. And of course, when there's multiple offers, we always ask, are you representing the buyer on your
Sure.
listing on one of the offers? And they say yes or no. I had an agent who said yes, and I said, are you doing the variable rate commission with your seller if you have both sides? And he said, well, what's that? And I said, if it's in your, it's not advertised because it said variable rate commission, no. And I'm sure everybody in here knows what variable rate commission means. But if you have an agreement with your seller in the listing agreement that says, if I procure the
only
buyer,
5.
that I'll do it for
Sure.
4% instead of 6%, you have to, it's a SAR regulation that you have to
They
put
can happen
variable rate
after the
commission.
fact.
Well, not only that, and I'll go a step further. If you put a variable rate commission no, nothing stops a listing agent from doing it anyway at the table. So variable commission really doesn't have a lot of teeth in it.
It happens later
Only
on.
your-
Only if it's in the listing contract.
No, but I'm saying, but if it's not, all right, if it's, well, they can do it at the table. If it's not, if I take your commission, I don't do any discounts, and I'm in a multiple counter of the listing agent at the table of negotiation, I can say to the seller,
drop.
if you take this offer, I'll drop my commission.
You got it.
Even though you didn't disclose it on the MLS, you can still do it at the table.
So there's a lot to say about this subject.
Yeah.
Because is everybody following this? Because this is not real estate 201, right? This is MBA level. So what's going on is that's a key ingredient in Frank's buyer's position, because if the sellers, if the listing agent has both sides and he ends up doing the deal for 4, but with 2 agents it's 6. There's 2% in the deal right off the bat that puts his buyer at a disadvantage. And the questions he answered, asked the listing agent, are completely valid. And they do have to answer them.
Correct.
Do you know
What's the consequence of it?
Get spanked.
Well, the consequence is you'll lose the deal probably, right?
What's that?
You'll probably lose the deal, and then you can file some sort of complaint if you want to go that route.
If they check.
And recover your commission, is that what you're saying?
I don't know about covering commissions. I don't know.
Sandy?
Because ethics, it's an ethics issue more than anything else. And I don't know all the answers, Don, but if ethics has nothing to do with money, right? Ethics, when you go for an ethics
Is
violation,
it an ethics violation, possibly?
potentially. Stay
Yeah.
tuned,
Likely?
stay tuned to the Court of Ethics review.
Let's go to the next bit of
So
people
Linda-
actually tour.
Linda and I were at a class ethics, code of ethics at Marlowe's, and they said that if the other agent asked me, what did we get as an offer? I'm obligated to tell them the exact
Absolutely
amount
not.
that was.
Absolutely not. It's not,
We had a big
it's wrong.
fight in the place, and
It's wrong.
Yeah, that's wrong.
wrong.
Because the seller,
You know who can say yes or no?
No.
Your seller,
Huh?
not you. Your
Yeah.
seller.
Okay.
It's up to your
Keith,
seller.
where's Keith? Do I press the right button?
Just left and right on there.
So, okay, oh wait, what is that?
Oh, well, let me make sure that is the right one. Go to the next.
hey Frank, you want to hit the lights?
Oh my goodness. Hold on one second.
sellers. We're not.
Are we all messed up?
Nobody understands that.
Yes, hold on.
I already know the answer, no and yes.
Keith, help me out here.
Just gotta go to the top. Hey, turn the lights back on, please.
We rehearsed this at 3 a.m. this morning, right?
Thank you. Just go to the top.
What's that? So, three guys walk into a bar.
Okay. One with a monkey, one with a chicken.
Oh my goodness. All right, so here's what you're gonna see. Here's what you're gonna see. In 2018, we're gonna talk about each one of these things. In 2018, you're gonna see the top 10 types of phone calls and issues that were brought to the legal hotline. And every one of them will affect every one of us because they're all valid. It's something that we all deal with. I think it's relevant. But these are the top 10 legal issues that came before the legal hotline in 2018. Who wants to guess what the number one is? Anybody? The number one issue in 2018, and it probably was the same thing in 17 and 16 and years past, is anybody? Bueller. Spuds. Non-disclosure, mostly with roof issues, but it could be any issue. Okay? The spuds, I can't begin to tell you how important this is. Okay? And it's not for us to complete, it's for the seller to complete. Fix and flips. Whatever the case may be, just because the seller does not complete a spuds does not release them from the liability of disclosure. It just doesn't. They have to disclose. So here's a controversial issue, and we all deal with it. Our seller probably really doesn't know there's a roof issue. We sell it, there's an offer that comes in, and they make the deal, and during the home inspection, they discover there's some roof issues. And I mean material facts, that the roof is leaking or whatever the case may be, right? Buyer asks the seller to repair it, seller says no, buyer cancels the contract. Well, now that the seller really does know, he's got to redisclose that.
Yes.
And most of the times they won't, right? Because it's just going to damage them. And we as realtors, Code of Ethics number 2 says that if we ever discover something that is a material matter, we have to disclose it. And the question is, there's no format of how we as realtors disclose it, but we have to disclose it. Seller says don't disclose it, what do we do? And then you'll call me and we'll discuss it on an individual basis. But you've got to disclose it. This is the number one issue, because it will come back to bite the seller, always. All right? Legal hotline, here says, trivial fact. Legal hotline gets about 20 to 25 phone calls a day. Do you know how many phone calls Sandy Carpenter gets a day? 50. Over 45 phone calls a day. And I'm happy to do it, but they're all the same types of phone calls. The legal hotline for me is, I'm like, you're a legal hotline. So they just have to disclose. You will never go wrong with disclosure. Half the forms that we have to fill out are disclosure, wire fraud, and affiliated business disclosure, and buyer advisory, and the lease advisory. They're all disclosures. You never go wrong with disclosures. But that's the number one issue of disclosure, of which
When in doubt.
roof.
When in doubt.
Number 2, anybody want to guess what number 2 is? Nobody?
Agency.
Drafting of contract, this is what we talked about before, right? So on that page 8, additional terms and conditions, the only reason why we have so many lines is for formatting purposes. If we can encourage you to use that extra space as least as possible, you're better off. We're all
altering
better
the
off.
contract.
Because we're going to start writing stuff in there that you know what you want to say, or we think the other agent, we understand what they're saying, but it's not what they wrote. Here's one of the common ones. Counteroffer, let's say, whatever, and says, home is being sold as is. What does that mean? Home is sold as is anyway. That's in the contract, right? Present physical condition. But they're thinking that I'm not going to make any repairs. Okay, fine. Buyer does an inspection, and he still asks the seller to make repairs. Seller says, I told you it's as is. So the buyer cancels. Seller, you can't cancel. You already agreed to buy it as is. That's not what as is means. Okay? Or, how about this one? I see this all the time. Buyer's earnest money becomes non-refundable after the inspection. Okay? So here's what happens. On day 8, The buyer submits a BINSR to the seller to fix these things. Buyer waits 2 days, and on day 11, still within the seller's 5 days, on day 11, the seller says, I'm not fixing anything, and the buyer says, I'm canceling. The seller says, okay, you can cancel, but guess what? Your earnest money is non-refundable. Well, no. It says it's not refundable until the inspection period. And the seller says, you're right. Your inspection period is the first 10 days. After the first 10 days, your money becomes non-refundable because that's what it says. That's not what was meant. What was meant to say was one of two things. If the buyer and seller agree of the due diligence section, then the money becomes non-refundable. Or after the seller satisfied, the buyer and seller satisfy the due diligence section, right? The due diligence section is the whole 6J, I think it is. But the home inspection is one section of the due diligence portion. Make sense? So you say after the first 10 days of a home inspection, money is non-refundable. Seller says, I'm not repairing anything. Your money is non-refundable. You can cancel the contract. Don't get cancellation confused with getting your money back. So that's not what was meant, but that's what was said. We have forms for everything. If you want to make the buyer's money non-refundable, use the additional clause addendum. There's a form for that. There's lines. We have forms really for just about everything we need. Okay? Have you noticed that there's no forms for lease purchases, lease options, pre-possessions, and post-possessions?
Nobody wants to touch it.
Because we just discourage that at all ends. You've heard me say that till the end of time. We just discourage that because there's no forms for that. And that's why there's no forms. They're just really, really risky. Okay? And all those that you've done it, you've all talked to me and we discuss it. Yeah.
What about people putting in on that, if termites are found, that they will be treated and a warranty given? So that takes it out of if they are found or not found, but at least
It's in the contract.
buyer
Sure.
says, I don't want to buy a house that's got termites and not going to treat, and I don't want to wait 10 days to find that out.
Great question. Well, they're still going to wait 10 days,
Well,
but
I'm just saying
but it's
that-
a contract agreement, not a
Yeah,
BINSR
contract,
issue,
not a BINSR.
right?
That's
So
what I'm
now,
saying. I'm sorry.
that's
what
right. That's
is
okay. But now you write, should termites be found, and the seller would be responsible for treatment, and the seller agrees. It's now a contract issue. It is not a BINSR issue.
Right.
Two different things. Just like when you do an FHA or a VA loan, and the buyer does their inspection, you got a BINSR item. And then the VA guy comes in and he does his appraisal/inspection, and then that's called a lender, and they require repairs, peeling paint or whatever. That's a lender-required repair. That is a separate line item than a BINSR request. Two separate things.
I'm talking about writing in the extra
But
stuff.
if you write it in, that's fine. Just be clear and concise. That's all. Just be clear and concise. And when you receive an offer with a lot of stuff in it, make sure you fully understand what's being said, because that's a huge issue. We start drafting contracts and we know what we want to say, we're just not saying it. And then when you have people start writing, all the legalese, and we're not lawyers, when we start writing the legal terms, it gets even more confusing. So just state what you want to say like a fifth grader. Just state what you want to state and write it. All right, number 3. Fix and flips. Okay, really important. Fix and flips. If you are a seller and you're flipping a house yourself and you're non-licensed, you can't sell that house for a year.
That's the season, is that what they call it?
Yeah, it's getting seasoned. You cannot sell that house for a year. If the flipper is a non-licensed person, they have to wait 1 year. Okay? If the seller is a contractor, and he is licensed, on the contract, all the subcontractors that were used have to go on the contract. No one ever does it, but that's a standard of, what do you call it, the commissioner has the substantive policies. It has to be on the contract. We don't do that as a general rule. Okay? Don, you have...
So the unlicensed, so what do? You call up the agent and say, hey, are they licensed or unlicensed?
You have to ask the question, and ask,
And
yeah.
then, are the subcontractors licensed or not licensed?
Well, if you have a general contractor, then
They go.
typically the subcontractors will be licensed.
He will pull
So
the
then
permits.
if he says, well, they were
Yeah, permit
unlicensed,
issue.
then what do? You inform them that they can't sell the property for a year?
Well, you got to disclose it. Can they sell it? They're not allowed to. It's a law. It's a law that they cannot sell it.
Is that in the Arizona revised statutes?
It's probably someplace, yes.
But what's considered
It'd be really great to know that. Because,
Well, here's what I'm really good at. I'm really good at telling you what it says. I'm not really good at telling you where to find it. I don't know if it's a statute, if it's a policy, but that's what the law says. And I use law, it could be a statute or
It would be good, Sandy, to specifically know, because if you bring it up, you better know.
well, I'm just telling you, but that's what the law says.
Kind of like
Linda has a
John
question.
Wait, hold on.
about the water.
What's that year, is that from the year that they purchased the home or the year that it's been?
I think it's from the time it was completed.
So like CO?
That's terrible.
Certificate of occupancy, yes.
Right here.
And it really based is a lot more on the permits than a lot of the other things, because a lot of homeowners don't go out and get the permit like they're supposed to.
We gotta go to school.
So it's more on, I think.
Well,
that's
the
what they-
point is, if you're getting involved in something like that, you gotta ask questions. Really, that's what the point is. It's not so much where it says it and what the
Linda-
line is.
Linda has a question.
Okay, but the point is, you gotta ask questions.
I previewed a house on McCormick Ranch. There was a couple who wanted to flip it. So their contractor, I asked, are they all licensed? She said most of them were.
Just
Some
about.
weren't.
Yeah.
So what do you do in a situation?
Just call me, I don't know the answers right off,
general is-
but each situation we'll investigate
As long as you have the GC.
one by one.
I think so.
But if the seller is not licensed, and say all of her subcontractors were
Our
licensed.
license.
I don't know the
That's-
answer.
I think
Just
that's
call
fine.
me.
As long as you have like a general contractor that's doing the work and you can go back.
But
and
she's saying it
reference-
wasn't a
was
general
the general
contractor, right?
contractor.
Just call me up.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know all the
You can
answers,
hire
but just
anybody you
call
want.
me and we'll find out. The other issue is, if the seller, hold on, if the seller is a member of an LLC that owns that also has to be disclosed. Okay? So if me and the four of us own a LLC together, and I'm the agent selling it, and I'm a member of the LLC,
Yeah.
I've got to disclose that too.
You have a financial interest.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, Sandy, a lot of the questions of licensed and unlicensed can be answered by the Register of Contractors. They have all the information there. Also, if you do a contract, if you're a licensed contractor and your subcontractor does work under a certain dollar amount, they don't necessarily have to be a licensed. So just
Well, it's a handyman rule, it's $1,000.
Yeah, $900, depending on what it is.
Sure.
Yeah.
But usually that comes into more into effect with, when we do repair items on Binzers and stuff like that. But the cumulative dollar cannot be more than $1,000, so. Somebody else had, yeah, Jennifer.
On the fix and flip, does it matter how the house was purchased, like auction or if it's listed on MLS, or it's just?
Nope, it's the seller who did the work and then is selling it. Yeah.
What if it's just a licensed agent that buys the house and then fixes it and then tries to flip it?
Same thing, he's not a general contractor.
Yeah, it has to be.
Not a general contractor, right.
What if you sell a flip and maybe you didn't know that you had to have all that and that wasn't in the contract?
Okay, well, here's the point.
Are you
Again,
liable?
Don, they ask, I don't know all the answers, I'm just trying to raise the questions, right? You just have to ask the questions. You listen, ignorance by not asking us the questions are not relevant for defense. We have to ask those
No, and
questions.
Susan brings up a good point. If you see the person bought it in November for $320 and he's selling it in January for $450, you need to be asking a lot of questions. Who, what, when, where, and why.
And the owner tax record says, we flip and sell homes LLC. I mean, the point is, we just can't hide behind it, right? I mean,
No, you're absolutely
You gotta
right.
ask the questions. We've gotta ask the questions. That's the whole point of this. Don, I don't know all the answers to exactly where to find it, or the law, or the policies are. And if we need to find it, we'll certainly find it. But you just need to be aware of what we're doing. All right? Wow.
Number 4.
Number 4.
Don't mess with her.
Are they
Multiple
serving
off-
lunch today, Sam?
What's that?
Are they serving lunch today?
Multiple offers and counter offers, so we talked about this a little bit. You gotta use the proper forms. There's been a lot of issues with Legal Hotline, people getting offers, multiple offers, and the seller is sending out counter offers simultaneously. Both counter offers are coming back signed.
it to
They each
two
thought they
people.
bought a house. You can't do that. You gotta use the proper forms. Here's what's happening a little bit more and more. Who has received multiple offer forms? Where the buyer is made more than one
Correct.
offer. It's exactly the same thing, it just works in reverse, okay? Here's something that's really important. You send out a multiple counteroffer, and then those buyers send counteroffer number 2, you send counteroffer number 3, and at some point you accept the counteroffer. The seller must sign the final counteroffer acceptance on the original multiple counteroffer
Otherwise, you
form,
sold the house twice.
right?
Yeah.
You've got to sign that final one to make that line, if you will, valid. So a lot of times I see that without signatures, okay? All right, well, we talked about that before. Oh, shucks. How do I do this? What do I do? I turned it off.
Oh, you hit the.
Oh, there we go. 5, permits. Okay, permits. If you see a discrepancy in square footage, you see a guest house, you see an add-on, you gotta ask the questions. Was it permitted? And here's what a lot of us do. When you see there's a discrepancy in tax records, the question is, discrepancy from what? If the tax records say it's 4,000 square feet, what's the discrepancy? Well, when the guy bought the house 6 years ago, it was only 3,000 square feet. There's a discrepancy. You gotta ask the questions. And I'm not talking about a 50 square foot difference or 100 square foot difference. If it's significant, but if you see a guest house, you see an add-on, you see a discrepancy, you gotta ask the questions, because more times than not, it's not permitted. And that's okay. You can sell a house that's not permitted. It just needs to be disclosed, and the buyer needs to be aware that they're taking on the responsibility.
Like an Arizona room and all that.
Arizona, same thing.
All the time?
All the time, right? But it's got to be. They got to be permitted. Okay. So again, you just got to ask the questions. All right. 6, sewer septic. Okay.
Must be.
This is the greatest question of all time, because there's a non-answer. When the SPUD says, "Are you on a sewer system?" Seller says, "Yes." Has it been verified? We all write, "Yes." And when the seller says to you, "How do I what do I answer? What do we tell them to do?"
Call the town.
It's on the water bill, so you're paying for it. Just write water bill. That's not verifying it. You may be paying the $1 or $2 water, the sewer, but that doesn't mean you're connected. Okay? So how do you verify it? Yes, sir.
Call the town.
We're, as part of all our inspections, we're having a sewer inspection done on every single property.
The only way to verify it, only actual way to verify it, is by getting it verified by a plumber or by a sewer inspection. Now, I'm not saying you have to do it, but it's the only true way to verify it. The water bill is not it. Now, if you live in Greyhawk, DC Ranch, Kierland, Desert Ridge, we all know that we are on a sewer system. We know that. But but the water bill is not necessarily the valid answer. But where's Bonnie, right? You have this a lot, right?
Yep.
A lot up in Rio Verde.
Right.
So it becomes an issue when you get into some of the outskirts.
So what's the proper way to fill out the form? Has it been verified? No.
No? Right?
Sandy, let me give you an example.
Be honest.
So, okay, so you sell a house to the homeowner, right? And, you know, maybe a year, whatever, some time goes by, they're having problems with the shower not draining. So, great, homeowner gets a sewer inspection. Oh, sewer line's broken. Right? Well, why didn't you inspect that? Well, now it cost, had to jackhammer up the driveway, dig down 14 feet, replace the sewer line, $12,000. Who's gonna pay for it?
Right.
And our deductible on our errors and omissions is, Del?
10 grand.
So now you're paying 10 grand and plus 2 grand. So you're gonna pay for the whole thing. When you could have got a sewer inspection and had the homeowner pay for it for about $175.
Right. Just again, it's just being aware of what we're dealing with.
Get the owner to pay $175.
And these are real problems. And listen, they're just real problems. They're just real problems. Especially in older houses, right? All of a sudden the tree trunk and the roots go into the sewer line and it bends the pipe. We see that. All right, number 7 is water well issues. Again, mostly in Rio Verde area. Is it on a well? Is it a shared well? Who shares the well? Is there a well manager? You have a right to see all those documents. Right?
An easement, you have to have an easement.
Easement. What else with water issues, with well issues?
It just needs to be disclosed.
Right. And by the way,
Water has to be inspected.
we spell water with an extra E just because.
The water has to
Just because. All right, number 8. But these are all issues, right? Every one of us are dealing with issues at some time or another. Solar system. Just use the solar addendum. It takes care of 98% of our problems. Here's the question to ask. When you take a listing with and you're taking a listing and you have a solar system, you need to ask the seller, what's the arrangement with the solar system? Is he going to sell it with it or without it? If he's adamant about selling it with it and not removing it, then you got to find out how is it transferable. And then when you list it, you must say that the buyer must take over the solar system, use the solar addendum, and whether it be for financing, whether the buyer needs to know. If the seller says, I'm flexible, whatever the buyer wants, that's great. Then you have to find out what does it cost to remove the solar system? Can it be transferred? How much is it to transfer? Because the buyer may affect his ability to qualify. But if you use the solar addendum, 98% of our problems will go away. Right? Other than, right, additional terms and conditions, solar system, buyer to assume the solar system contract. It doesn't mean anything because there's financing and all that stuff involved. We're not really finding about a lot of issues with solar systems. We're not getting too many of them because I don't think there's that many houses out there with solar systems that are affecting us, right? Anybody finding that?
You find them a lot now on the west side, especially in the retirement communities. It seems to be like they hit all the homes out there. Sun City Grand, Cartavella, all out there, Pebble Creek, you're seeing a lot of solar panels.
And the issue is when there's a roof problem that needs to be repaired and there's solar panels covering the roof panels. So who's going to take off the roof panels to fix the roof, to put the roof panels, the solar panels back?
It's more of a problem when it's a lease property, or at least solars versus owned.
Correct. When it's owned, it's simple.
It's a really easy process when the panels are owned.
When it's an owned system, it's easy. It just transfers over typically with transfer papers. If it's leased, that's where all the issues come in. Right.
And I understand that the mortgage companies, I think this is correct, I got some information on it, has new documentations about mortgages with the solar panels.
And the best thing you could ever do with the buyer is put them in touch with the solar system company. Don't be the source of the information, be the source for the source. Buyer, here's Solar City, here's your contact, here's the paperwork. Let them tell you what you're taking on. Number 9, agents acting as agents must disclose, okay? You gotta disclose. Some of us buy our own properties, we lease our own properties, you just have to simply write, ex-agent with Remax Fine Properties is the owner of this, is the owner or the buyer or the seller of this property. If you're a member of an LLC, like I said earlier, you've gotta disclose that you're a member of an LLC. You can't hide behind the fact. We're an agent, and the state requires us and expects us to live to a higher standard. When we're an agent, we have to disclose that at all times. And the reason, if you don't know, is that we are put on a higher plane. So we want to make sure everybody's on the same playing field. If I'm negotiating for myself to buy a house and Keith's not an agent, he just needs to know that I may have an advantage in the sense that I know how it all works and he doesn't. So it's been disclosed to him. When it comes to dual agency, we may have talked about this. If you're selling your own house or buying your own house, but particularly if you're selling your own house and you find the buyer, so now you're a dual agent, you can't truly be a dual agent when you're a principal on one side. Okay? If you get into that situation, just call me and I'll tell you what we need to do. In the eyes of the law, you cannot be truly a dual agent and represent both sides equally if you're a principal on one side. So if you get into that situation, just call me and we'll deal with that. Number 10, anybody? Anything we haven't touched yet? Wire fraud. We've been really lucky. In this company, we've been really lucky. Go ahead, Jennifer, tell us. How many attempts a day are you guys getting in Fidelity system?
It changes all the time, but Victoria, remember it was like 85 a day. It was so much.
85.
And the worst is Gmail, because that's the easiest for the hackers to get in. So when they get in, they're waiting and they're watching everything go back and forth, and then they'll try to impersonate the escrow officer and send a link that's kicked off by one digit. And there's been several situations where people have tried to send money there And if that happens, it's gone.
And it's a relatively new area. E&O may or may not cover it.
No, it's not new.
No. What I'm talking about insurance-wise, in the sense that, we have a rider that protects us, but no one really knows how much it protects
No,
us.
I can tell you right now, if you guys let this, listen, I'll tell you, it's real simple for me. I'm looking at my buyers and sellers and say, we're back to old school, don't wire anything.
Right.
So for me, it's really simple. I advise everybody in this room, because I'll tell you what, it's gonna happen. And we've been talking about it now for 2 years. And if you're still letting people wire, you're in trouble. Don't do it. I don't care if you gotta miss close of escrow by a month. Don't do it. I have a client that was buying a boat slip in Naples, $550,000. He noticed 10 days later, because the guy's flying all over the world, gone. $550,000 gone. Over a year ago, we had somebody, we represented the seller. The buyer was a licensed agent. The guy was walking in the bank to take her $750,000 to pick up, and they caught him 40 seconds before he was walking out with $750,000. Now, she was a licensed agent. We had nothing to do with her, but it's going to happen to somebody in this room, and it's going to be a very sad day. Yeah.
And right now, they're going more for, it was listings with the seller money, now they're charging more the buy side.
Yeah, I mean, we've had the FBI in here. We have the fraud addendum. Just don't let anybody wire. Just don't do it. Yeah, Don?
So this fellow that I know is a CEO of one of the largest internet security companies in the world. And so I went to their office. They have an office here and one in Zurich and an office in California. And it was interesting to hear him talk to me because he said, all these governments, foreign governments, and it doesn't matter politically where you're at, but China and Russia are attacking every company that has a dime. And they're stealing intellectual property, they're stealing billions of dollars. And it was an interesting, we had a coffee together I thought I'd be there for 30 minutes, and I was there for an hour and a half. But it was just interesting to see what they do to combat these. They represent some big companies, like worldwide companies. And it is happening, there's no doubt. I mean, these guys are every second.
I only have 3 minutes. I need to make this fast, but this is really important. I'm going to change the subject completely. When we take a listing, right? When we take a listing, what guarantees us as listing agents that we're getting paid?
MLS.
No.
The ER.
The ER. Okay?
Listing ER?
Oh, that's
When we're a buyer's agent and we sell a house, what guarantees us payment? The MLS. It's one little line. It says BB by a broker. Yes, it gives you a percentage and an amount. That is the only guarantee that we get paid. I am begging you to be careful, especially on leases. There's an issue going on in the industry right now that it says on it for lease, buyer's agent, yes, and you could put a flat fee or you could put a percentage. Next line, it says compensation for sale. It's a small little line. And if you put down a percentage or 3, and that lease, let's say it's a 2-year lease, and you have no more correspondence with your tenant. You got paid on the tenancy 2 years ago, and that tenant during the lease buys the house directly with the landlord. And then you notice it in tax record, however, you as the buyer's agent are entitled to the 3% of whatever that selling price was.
Even if you abandoned them? And
Has nothing to do with abandonment.
As long as you put the.
If you're the listing agent, if you don't mean that, don't put it in there. Because we're going to get that phone call that says, hey, it's not, Remax Fine Properties said 2 years ago that you're entitled to a 3% commission if that tenant goes with the makes a deal with the landlord, and we'd have to pay it. Or if we're the other side, we're entitled to receive it. It's a simple little line that we just look over. And I will tell you, leases are now 20 to 25% of our business. We're doing tons of leases. Renewal for compensation for purchase, 3%, and that house sells for $500,000, and you did that lease 2 years ago, and you hated that tenant, and you wanted nothing to do with that tenant. They buy that house, you're entitled to a $15,000 check.
Watch, see, I'm a first base coach. Emily's got me. 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
Yeah, so just put in 0, unless you mean it. Now, watch this. Watch this. You're the listing agent, and you put down, let's say, for sale, let's say it's a 6% commission, you're co-broking 3%, and so on. If you read the listing agreement, there's a line that says, if you rent this house, and a tenant should purchase this house, that the seller will pay the brokerage. So now, not only you as the buy agent entitled to 3%, if you were the listing agent side, and you said, listen, I hated this landlord, I'm not working with this landlord, you do the tenant, I want nothing to do with you. If he sells that house to the tenant, you as the listing agent are entitled to 6%. Now you have to co-broke the other 3, if that's what your listing says, but you're entitled to that percentage, because that's what the agreement says, right? So then the question is, if you're entitled to it, now what are you going to do about it? That's another whole set of issues. Are we going to go after it? Are we going to make it? But you as the agent are going to be responsible for paying that fee to the other agent that was entitled to it on the tenant side. So it's a little bit of a line, but it's the only line as a buyer or tenant agent that guarantees us payment.
We'll send that out today because I see some confusion in the room. We'll send it out today of an MLS printout of what I'm going to be doing from this point on. And it's going to be 0, 0, 0, renewal 0, compensation to buyer's agent 0, compensation for
that's it, sale and renewal.
I think, okay, anyway,
And
0,
you
0,
can
0.
also do the 1-year max on what the lease is, because sometimes we see a lot of leases getting broken in that second year, yet that owner or the landlord has already paid for the 2 full years in commissions. So
I'm going to wrap it up with this. So in the short sale days, especially in the beginning, right? We all put down 3% that we're going to co-broke. Then the banks, did the short sale, and the bank said, no, we're only going to give you 5%. And we would go back to the buyer's agents and, hey, the bank went from 6 to 5. Would you share the commission with me? And in the beginning, I think as an industry we did. But once we knew, the general practice was the bank was going to reduce that commission to 5%. So most of the short sales in the MLS said 2.5%, right? Well then, and I'll speak for myself. So the listing said 3% co-broke, and we do short sales. We're experts. We get them closed. We know how to negotiate, right? We all saw that. 3%, that's great. They know what they're doing. And when they came back, the bank reduced it to 5% and asked me to take from 3 to 2.5, and I wouldn't do it. You're telling me you're an expert. You're telling me you get them done.
You're certified.
I'm paying 3%, and they couldn't fight me. So whatever that MLS says, it's really important. That's the only guarantee we as buyers or tenants agent get paid. So, okay.
All right,
I'm on
thank you.
overtime. Thanks.
All right, so a lot of information. So we're going to go really quickly around the room with our vendors. CNN, Tiffany, you want to introduce your new...
CNN Mortgage. I'll make this quick. I want to introduce Zeno. I know you guys have all been getting to know Jackie, and she's been making some impact here with all of you guys. So we want to add on one more person to our RE/MAX team, and this is Zeno Zanaro. He's been in the mortgage business for a long time. He's going to say something really quick.
Yes, so been with CNN quite a few years. Originally moved from back east here in 2008, January. So as many of you know, the timing was impeccable there. But no, I look forward to meeting everybody. I am not married, no kids. That's not my dating profile. I'm just letting you know that I am available to participate, plan, help sponsor any events, nights, weekends, open houses, whatever you guys might have, just to help you guys make 2019 very successful. So, thank you.
Ladies, stop. Super
Hi guys, Allie Clapp with Chicago Title and Jill Bright. We have actually 2 things that we wanted to talk about real quick. I'm going to go over flight plan. You guys might have gotten an email from us. We have a huge event coming up on April 3rd. It is at the Scottsdale Air Park and at the new venue called Valenti. We're bringing in 5 national speakers to talk about digital marketing, elevating, the whole concept is elevating your business online. 5 national speakers we're bringing in to really talk about branding, digital marketing, social media, podcasting, everything. So we're super excited about that. We'll send out a follow-up email about that event, but we'd love to have you guys there. It's going to be pretty incredible.
And early bird tickets end next Thursday, so March 1st, the ticket price jumps. The other thing that we have been doing is the kind of digital marketing series. So mark your calendars for the 12th. We've had some great feedback from the classes that we've done. just on some of the topics we've covered. So the 12th is going to be really showing you how to market to your farm and how to kind of watch and be a little bit of a stalker in your market areas. So reach out to us.
Thank you. Sharon.
Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Sharon Wolf-Herman, AJF Inspections and Engineering. Great to see all of you. We're participating in that event and really excited for it. And if you haven't been to that restaurant, it's great. Took our grandson at 2 years birthday party and it was awesome. So don't miss the whole event. It'll be fantastic. Quick situation, quick story. Recently, did an inspection about 4 months ago. The inspection report had in it, and this is coming off of a lot of what Sandy was talking about, the inspection report mentioned at least 14 major items on the electrical. It was an older home, it had aluminum wiring that was in trouble, all of the repairs have been unprofessional, over and over recommending evaluation, full evaluation of the electrical system by a licensed contractor. In the report mentioned that rodents were chewing away the wires in the attic. In the report also mentioned that the smoke detector was not operating. Once we give you and your clients that information in that report, we don't know what you do with it. We don't know what the buyer decides, if they request or not. 4 months later, we get a phone call, fire in the house. The whole thing burned down. We have no responsibility. We are covered. The sad part is, did the agent make sure that if the buyer waived having an electrician come before close of escrow, did they follow up in an email in writing? Was there any back and forth where that the agents covered themselves if the client just was being emotional, saying, oh, we won't worry about it, we'll fix the house when we get there? Make sure you cover yourselves. When we do all that we can lead a horse to water, but if they're not gonna follow what we recommend, and they're not listening to you, it's not worth just making sure you get your commission check at the end if it's gonna come back and bite you and cost you more later. So just a little beware story that I wanted to share with all of you because I love you. So thank you for all of your AJF support. We're here for you anyway you need us.
Dennis.
Hi, Dennis Nobby, I'm the owner of Horizon Inspection Service. Sharon and I are here to help you guys, obviously working together to be available to you for home inspections. I appreciate the opportunity to meet those of you who have met so far and do inspections for. I hope that I get to meet all of you at some point. But anyone watch the show New Amsterdam? Watch that show New Amsterdam? It's a good show. What is the one thing the main character always says to everybody? Every encounter he has, he meets somebody, what's the first thing he says? How can I help you? How can I help you? I thought, when I watched that and he said that, that's awesome, isn't it? When you say, how can I help you, the first thing you say to someone, it puts everything right in perspective. You start off on the right foot. That's what we're about. We're here to help you. I'm here to help you. I think there's a difference in the way that I do inspections, and obviously that's, hopefully you've experienced that if I've done one for you so far. But I think there's a way that I can help you as a buyer. First thing you'll hear me say is, I'm here for you. We're not in any hurry. We're going to walk around. I'm going to show you everything, ask all the questions you have. Then I'm going to send you a detailed report. I'm going to circle things into pictures. I'm going to describe everything. It's going to be real clear. Okay? So I put them at ease. That's the difference. That's how I can help your buyer and you. Okay? So there is a difference. I think you'll notice it. People call me when they have inspections they need for their relatives, for their own home. That's the highest compliment to me. Who should I get? Who should I get to inspect my mom's house? They call me. That's a good thing. That's a good feeling. Okay, because I know that they have a lot of trust and confidence. Anyways, love to meet you all. Looking forward to it. And
Deanne with Azing Realty Media. We are your real estate marketing hub. We have photography, drone, video, Twilight. We have the best virtual tour, I believe, on the market right now, where it can hold everything, your documents, your 3D Matterport, 3D Zillow. Everything that you need is right there in your virtual tour. Our prices are great. We are running a special right now for 10% off on Twilight shoots. This does exclude photography by Jessica. She's awesome. I've beefed up my team because we just partnered with leading listers. If you don't know who Reed and Lister is, that's Sign Setters. So they have now changed their name. We are their preferred photographer, and beefed up my staff, so we would really love to get your Twilight shoots. They really enhance your listings. So give us a shot. Appreciate it.
Hi, good morning. My name is Liz, and I work with Rebecca Nisi. You guys might be familiar with her. She's your Allstate agent. Anyway, she couldn't be here because she's in Iowa helping her in-laws, and she's snowed in a little bit. She'll be home tonight, thankfully. I'm filling in for her. She wanted me to share that we did make Circle of Champions, which is a high honor within Allstate because of your referrals. And hearing the presentation, it just brings a lot of issues that you guys struggle with, that we also struggle with. And if you guys are looking to get educated, give us a call. We can help you talk through the bursting pipes in the driveway and the rodents eating electrical and things like that. So just call us. We want to educate you so you guys can be better educated for your clients.
Thank you. Julie.
Good morning, Julie LaRosa with Stewart Title. I have two things I want to share with you. Tomorrow from 3:30 to 6:30 we have our Renovate Then Celebrate gig at our office. We've just completed a complete renovation of our office, and we'd love to have you stop by. Food, beverages, and some great raffle prizes. And then mark your calendars for February 28th at noon. I have a lunch and learn with a very experienced CPA who handles athletes, entertainers, small business owners, and he's going to provide a lot of information about the new tax codes. Unfortunately, the 2018 Arizona state tax codes still haven't been set for last year. So hopefully we'll have some information on that, so just let me know if you can make it. Thanks so much.
Troy. Jen. Troy. I'm Troy, Fidelity National Title. Jen's.
Fidelity National Title. We just have a few events I want to make sure you guys know about. Number one tonight is our Phoenix Radio event. It's monthly. It's amazing. Chris Iman has got it started. It's always at the Clayton House. I know tonight they're going to do a live deal on stage for off-market properties, so that should be really interesting. We have golden tickets if you want. Your first one is free to attend, or complimentary. This one has to say free. But then we've got 2 classes coming up for the new Instanet forms that will be coming out in April. I keep wanting to say Instapot, but Instanet. It'll be on the 20th at our Pinnacle Peak office, and then again in April I'll have one at Adara Condominiums. And then we're going to be scheduling our happy hour sometime in March for our Scottsdale Quarterly Happy Hour, so stay tuned for that. And forgetting, oh, the headshots. And then I've got the headshot day booked. We get a lot of requests for headshots. Why not do it while it's cold outside, not hot? So Gary Helen is going to be shooting before your guys' awards at Greyhawk between 9 and 11. So we'll send out sign-up links. It'll be $99 for 3 fully retouched stills by Gary, and he does a great job. So
That's a great idea.
Yeah, so 9 to 11.
Because everybody we already dressed up.
You're already dolled up, right?
Great idea.
All right, Tara.
Tara Carter, Old Republic Home Warranty. This Thursday, we are kicking off a happy hour for spring training. So if you're a baseball enthusiast or just want to come out and hang out, let me know. Text me. It's going to be over at Arriva's on Thursday, and we will be giving away some tickets. And since everybody's saying horror stories, why not me? So the importance of getting an HVAC inspection. Twice this past year, pack rats ate through the wires inside the AC unit, so that didn't break due to normal wear and tear. Inspectors do not take off the walls. You need to have HVAC inspections. The second one was a little more gross. It was a snake wrapped around the fan, and so when they turned it on, it burned out the fan. So have an HVAC inspection on every property you sell. There you go.
All right, hey, all right, ladies. I have some very disappointing news. Antonio's married.
That's okay.
Finally.
He takes back.
Yeah, finally.
He takes back.
Hey guys, I don't know if any of you have ever done a deal with Don Matheson, but I can tell you, not only does he do the macro inspection, then he gets into micro, windows, AC, plumbing, electrical, roof. He goes all in. relentless on that 10 days, use it up. There's no benefit for turning in your inspection report 2 days early. Use it up. I mean, that's what it's for. HVAC. Thanks for bringing that up. Arizona. Phoenix has the second highest growth last year at 8.3%. I don't know if you guys saw that in the Wall Street Journal, but it's big movement, right? Spuds. Did you notice when Sandy mentioned Spuds, there was the police siren? If I was a producer on a film, what's it called? There's symbolism. It's called symbolism, where he's up here talking about the Spuds, and you're, the police are coming. Thursday, every Thursday at 10 a.m. I have business planning. So when you guys want to talk about lead generation, lead follow-up, negotiating, presenting, come see me on Thursdays. It's at the Fidelity campus on Hayden. Yeah, Don.
Don't forget, every second week, at a Peak Luxury Tour. And it's actually, now they have tables outside, it's so well attended. We had a band last time.
Wow.
It was really just absolutely awesome. A lot of great information, great speakers. Right, who went? Yes, you went, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, oh, good, but it doesn't matter. But the thing that disturbs me is you have too many of these people from Sotheby's there.
Right.
Yeah.
Chris Usher started to go and a few other people. So,
but it's because we're out selling houses.
No, it's because, and there's a tour. You want your house on tour?
Yeah, you do. I know, I'm a tour user. I only go when I have a house on tour, which is really bad.
It is bad.
It is bad.
It's a great
I know.
area to recruit agents.
It is.
Because those people at Sotheby's got lots of expireds and they don't sell anything.
Right. You're absolutely right.
I like the people in this room.
All right, so listen, work hard. The market's out there. And remember, listings are more important right now because a lot of buyers are going direct. I can't emphasize that enough. Frank.
Bill, just one quick thing I know we're trying to get out. I just checked with my code of ethics. That non-disclosure of variable rate commission is an Article 3 code of ethics violation. In the last case that was heard, the realtor who had the competing offer sued the broker for non-disclosure of variable rate, got his full 3%.
Wow.
That's all NAR, so it's not any different here.